Well, the Championship has not disappointed this weekend. Once again, the EFL has thrown up plenty of talking points, all of which will be discussed in today's video. Obviously, we still have a game going on in the Championship today. If you're watching this after that game has taken place, do comment down below. Obviously, we've got Pompey taking on West Brom. But for the sake of the other 11 matches that have already taken place, we'll be talking about them in today's video, going into some of the talking points from the weekend and trying to find out what we've learnt about each side over the last few days. If you do go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. But without any further ado, let's talk about the action. So starting out with the Friday night game, we had Hull going up against Sheffield United. In the end, it was the Blades walking away with all 3 points. And in the end, they had things fairly easy. I know the momentum bar here says that this one was all Hull and the Tigers dominating and things like that. But game management, I thought, was pretty good from Chris Wilder's side in this one. They were absolutely devastated on counter-attacks. That's where Hull looked really susceptible to conceding their goals. And, I mean, Hull were very much still in this game at 1-0 down, but as soon as Sam McCallum made it 2, I think the writing was already on the wall. And it has been quite a concerning start to the season for the Tigers. 5 games in, still no wins. Yes, it has been a tough fixture list for them recently with back-to-back games against Leeds and Sheffield United, but the early signs, the lack of goals, lack of clear-cut chances being created, and some of the goals they've shipped so far, especially how open they have looked on the counter, the problems are starting to pile up there at Hull, albeit I think we all predicted it to be a bit of a slow and clunky start to the season for them because of the turnover of players and the new management staff coming in this season. Now, I have to put my hands up and say that I got this one wrong, and fair play to Burnley. I was backing Leeds for all 3 points in the Saturday early kickoff, but it was Scott Parker's men who walked away with all 3 points in the end. A devastating counter-attack from them, and then really a rigid defensive performance in the second half ensured that they hung on for this one. In terms of Leeds, it was a bit of a frustrating one because in the first half especially, they did have chances. Joseph in particular had that one early on, didn't he, which could have set the tone for Leeds for the rest of the afternoon. The home side also had a penalty decision waved away in that first half as well. But Burnley managed the game in the second half really well. We've seen how clinical they can be at parts of this season, even when they're not creating an abundance of chances like they didn't in this game. An XG of just 0.66 compared to Leeds United's 1.24. Not seeing that much of the ball either. This Burnley team is nothing like the Vincent Kompany side we saw in the Championship a couple of years ago, but that doesn't mean they can't be just as effective. It has felt like a long time coming, but Luton Town claimed their first win of the season, beating Millwall 1-0. Mengi with a fantastic strike to give Rob Edwards' side all 3 points in this one. Millwall did have a glorious opportunity to get back into this one late on. It was Langstaff who was sent through one-on-one with the goalkeeper, but he put that effort wide, and in the end they fell to a 1-0 defeat. Hopefully for Luton's sake, this will be the thing that sort of kick-starts their season. I do think there's been a degree of misfortune maybe about some of their results in the opening games of the campaign, but to finally get that first win of the season, you'd think, especially with the quality in that squad, they'll start to pick up from here. And in the last of the Saturday early kickoffs, we had Oxford beating Stoke City 1-0. I was backing Oxford to win this game, and they just can't be wrote off, especially in their home matches. They've had a flawless record at home so far this season. 3 games played, 3 wins. They've beat Norwich, Preston and Stoke City now, all on home soil. We did mention with Stoke coming into this one, I still feel like maybe there is that degree of inconsistency about them. You don't quite know what you're going to get from them week to week. Going off the highlights and the stats, it was Oxford who had the better of this game. More possession, more XG, 3 big chances created compared to Stoke, who didn't really muster up that much for themselves. That's an absolutely cracking result for Oxford. Now I have to hold my hands up and say that I was badly wrong with my prediction for Blackburn to go down at the start of the season. Another cracking result for them here, beating Bristol City 3-0. Ohashi especially with a real standout performance as he bagged a brace in this game. Now, to be fair to Blackburn, after I made that prediction, they obviously were quite proactive in the transfer market. A lot of those new signings, I think, have settled into the side really quite well. Blackburn definitely winning the midfield battle in this game with Tronstad and Travis both having standout performances. Lewis Baker a nice presence coming into that Blackburn side as well. I am a bit cautious the fact that Preston's next game is up against Blackburn, and the form book certainly backs Rovers for that fixture right now. From a Bristol City perspective, quite poor in this one. I do think they have quite a few winnable games on the horizon where you'd think they should look to change their fortunes around, but yeah, a few worrying signs cropping up from that one. But speaking of worrying signs, arguably the biggest cause for concern in the Championship right now is with Cardiff City, rooted to the bottom of the Championship table. They've only scored 1 goal in their opening 5 matches, and I mean, this was a game I really think they needed to get something from. Derby aside, who a lot of people have tipped to be in and around the relegation zone this season, but like Oxford, have really taken advantage of all of their home fixtures so far this season. 3 games at Pride Park for Derby so far this season, 3 wins, and most importantly, 3 clean sheets as well. Derby really should have made this one 2-0 when Ibu Adams raced through on goal and produced undoubtedly the miss of this season so far. If you've not seen that, make sure to go ahead and check it out. But another good win for Derby on home soil there. Cardiff, I'm getting concerned about. For Middlesbrough against Preston, it was sort of more of the same for Middlesbrough really. Quite a dominant performance, and Preston definitely had to ride their luck quite a few moments of this match, but in the end we've walked away with a point. As a Preston fan, I'll absolutely take that. You can tell the quality that Middlesbrough do have to build the play up through the thirds. There were quite a few opportunities where they probably should have capitalised on, but North End just about managed to keep our head above water. Nice goal from North End, I thought, to get back into this one after conceding quite a simple and disappointing one. It was just one long ball from Middlesbrough that Conway latched onto, but nice ball in from Brad Potts and a volley from Frokjar Jensen to level it up. Second half, we definitely needed to ride out that luck a little bit, but given all the chaos behind the scenes at North End from the start of the season, I'll absolutely take a point at the Riverside. Was this the most typical Championship result of this weekend though? Plymouth Argyle beating Sunderland 3-2. Sunderland, the form team in the Championship coming into this fixture. Plymouth, who had been, I mean, statistically, one of the weakest, if not the weakest sides in the Championship in the opening 4 matches. But fair play to Wayne Rooney's side here. We have spoken about it with Plymouth a few times on the channel so far, but especially thinking back to the first half of last season, Plymouth were able to turn Home Park into an absolute fortress, and that's what Wayne Rooney is going to have to do with this Plymouth squad this season if they are going to avoid the drop. It was a bit of a crazy back and forth game, this one. When Sunderland got back into it in the 86th minute with Mundle, you'd have thought that they would have been the more likely side to go on and win this game, all for Edwards to then pop up with a winner in the 93rd minute. That could be the recipe to kickstart the campaign for Plymouth there. From a Sunderland perspective, it's disappointing, but it's still 4 wins from your first 5 matches, which you can't have any grumblings about. Sheffield Wednesday against QPR had an absolutely mental finish to the game. Now, Wednesday really were coming into this game with some bad momentum. The previous 3 performances had been really disappointing, and I was backing QPR for a result in this game, but going off the showing of the first half especially, Wednesday were right up for this game and probably should have been in front going into half-time. QPR were able to hold out though, started to grow into it a little bit more as the second half went on, but then when Barry Bannon gives Wednesday the lead in the 93rd minute, the roof lifts off Hillsborough. It was a really good goal as well. All for QPR to then score one of the scrappiest goals in Championship history to get back into the game. But you've got to be able to defend those situations. And for QPR to have not played the best in this game, but to have still walked away with a point despite conceding in the 93rd minute, you take that point and run every day, don't you, if you are a QPR fan. More positives to take from a Wednesday perspective, I think, compared to recent performances, but to not hold on for all 3 points is really disappointing. Swansea managed to get back to winning ways with all 3 points against Norwich City. To be fair to Swansea, they have been decent value for money at home so far this season. That's now 2 wins and a draw on home soil for Swansea. Only 1 goal conceded in those home matches as well. While they have had those struggles on the road, does feel like they could turn that home ground into a bit of a fortress this season. From a Norwich perspective, a little bit disappointing. Still think that there are a few issues to be ironed out there, certainly relating to consistent chance creation. They tried to throw everything at Swansea towards the end of this one, and to be fair, probably should have got a goal. They had an XG of 1.22 in the end, but Swansea held on and defended well, and like a lot of teams in the Championship right now, it does feel like Norwich are a working project. And then the last game of Saturday we had going on was Watford up against Coventry. In the end, these two sides levelling each other out, and it did finish as a 1-1 draw. Probably a game of two halves. That would certainly be the case going off the momentum bar here, with Coventry having the better of the first half. Ellis Sims giving the away side the lead after just 4 minutes in this game. And there were some nice passages of play, I thought, from Coventry. Looking at the highlights from this one, I certainly think in terms of a performance point of view, there were more signs of encouragement from Coventry, but Watford's not been an easy place to go to so far this season. They grew into the game in the second half, and it was Tom Dilly-Bashiru who ensured that Tom Cleverley's side got at least a point from this game. Bit of a concern from a Watford perspective was Chekvidadze going off with an injury, although going off Tom Cleverley's post-match interview, it doesn't seem as if that injury is quite as serious as first assumed. So fingers crossed that's the case, as we don't want to see a player as good as him being out for an extended period. But that game finished level in the end. Still feels like Coventry I've got a few chinks in the armour to iron out. But that'd be interesting to get your guys' summary on these games in the comments down below. Did you go to any matches this weekend? Let me know about them and any key points that you took away from this weekend's action. As always, guys, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. But apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next one.